you some time with the Savage Horde here, huh?
Ah, P, welcome back. Yes, I cannot stay up in the Savage Pavilion all the time. A proper leader spends time with their people. One must lead, not dictate, after all.
Well, that is fine, but I can't really bring the camera down here. All I can do is record the audio and slap it on a background later.
And I am sure you do a fine job, little one. Other than your little captioning rebellion, I've been satisfied with your work.
Well, since I came all the way down here, what shall today's podcast be about?
I shall simply ask the others around the fire here, what wisdom shall I spread today to those who could not be here eating all of this delicious bear? You, young one, over there, what shall I tell the little fay with the microphone? Yes, come up, tell me. Hear me, savages. The request is that I tell you of the most epically savage event that I have ever witnessed. Excellent, and easily answered. I should tell you of Aya the barbarian. The world that I was in was populated by humans and dwarves who had come to this land as an expeditionary force several generations before. They had made landfall in a natural harbor and erected a city and eventually a castle, which they named Gul'dan. Things were fine until a dragon found them. Bloody blizzards always spoiling people's fun. So these folks built a wall around their city to defend against the big winged beasties with their mighty ballistae upon every tower and barbican. Things were pretty good until they found out that the dragon had a brother. Yeah, the only thing worse than a dragon is two dragons. Eventually, they both happened to attack at the same time, and this overwhelmed the city's defenses. The king fell in combat, fending off these lizards, but they were driven off. So the Gul'dani survived to rebuild to see another day, and unfortunately for them, their king's son was a real piece of nastiness. He was a warmonger, which I normally would have no problem with. He ruled with an iron gauntlet, driving the people hard and raising them on fear of the dragons, making them believe that they needed to give their all to rebuild the wall better than ever, even if it meant working them to death. He really hated dwarves, you see, and made them move into that wall. He drove them to give up on luxuries. His military doubled and redoubled until any who had no productive work were conscripted into full-time military service. His coffers swelled. One day, a group of farmers got together and said that they had had enough and deserted to start their own city despite the threat of dragons. As you can imagine, they weren't popular with the new king. He shunned them and anyone siding with them. Those people chose freedom over oppression, and it is these people whom I came upon in my travels. These farmers, they had learned through what little magical means that they had, that their new king had joined forces with a mighty witch, and together they had struck a deal with the dragons. The beasties would make regular appearances and keep the Gul'dani afraid, and in turn, the dragons were paid from the bulging coffers of their new king. All of those people who died to defend that wall had been throwing their lives away on a scam. So I joined a mighty party, the best the farmers could pull together, to put an end to this once and for all. We set off, not to save the kingdom, of course, but to claim it for ourselves. The king and the witch were corrupt, but they were very rich, which is a win-win for us. We free the people, gaining fame and fortune, and in the power vacuum, we inherit a kingdom. Sounds pretty savage, don't you think? My new companions consisted of many powerful and brave savages, but of note was a roguish beauty named Lucinda, and a barbarian woman named Aya. Lucinda was brilliant and crafty, a manipulator of men and motivator of all. It was a pleasure to work next to such underhanded craftiness. Aya, on the other hand, was big and bold and utterly fearless. Our adventures together brought us as close as any wolves in a pack. It was Aya that I sing the praises of in this story. You see, it is Ea whom I fought beside, tracking down the smaller of the Dragonian brothers, and together we took its head. With it, we marched to Gul'dan to show the cowardly king that his scam was over, for we had removed half of the threat from the dragon attack, and we knew full well that the wall could defend itself. And we were mostly right. As fate would have it, the dragon's older brother found us before we could expose the king at his own gates. The enraged BC had no intention of simply scaring the people this time, though. He came to melt it under his breath and spell to avenge his brother's death. What took place was a battle as epic as any I have ever seen. Lucinda had befriended many of the dwarves within the wall. This gained us entry into the city that was now heavily under siege by the great beastie. Magic was quite rare in this realm, but several potions were passed out for healing and combat effectiveness. As the dragon made pass after pass against the city, the king hid up in his walled keep, ordering his faithful guard to leave in safety and defend the castle at all costs from the outside. What became of this was a battle of three powerful forces. The army of the wall, following up our lead, the army of the king, who defended the keep and tried to regain control of the wall by any means necessary, and, of course, the enraged dragon strafing both sides from above. Battle drums beat and banners flew as my party split up, manning ballistic when their controllers fell and tending to the ever-increasing wounded. Or as in the case of Ea and I, threw ourselves headlong into combat. The fight was incredible, with the dragon soaring high above, shining black scales of obsidian contrasting with white clouds above. He would turn and shoot to avoid the bola and shot fire from the ballista, only to dive down for yet another pass upon the castle city below, dissolving great troughs of stone and bone with his acrid breath before taking to the skies again. We had to guess where he would dive and try to get a few strikes in by getting in his path without getting melted, all the while fending off the king's guards. Exhilarating stuff. Hundreds fell in that glorious battle before Lucinda found the witch trying to escape the castle in disguise. She tricked the witch into going on a different path to escape the chaos, but that path led directly to me. I've met many a witch in my time, and have even grown to love a few, but this was an awful creature. Her days of cruelty and dark alchemy had come to an end, else I might never get paid. It took a few tries, but thanks to my immunity to most of her illusion and trickery, I managed to get my blade between her skinny little ribs and gutted her. On her person, I found a box of special potions she had brewed up to help get her away, including one that granted her wingless flight. I had been badly wounded in my battle with the witch's spells, and while I was being healed, I tossed the potions to Ea and told her what they were. That brilliant savage downed the potion and took to the air, swinging her axe toward the dragon all by herself. The two flying beams danced in the air briefly before Ea managed to straddle the dragon right between his wings. The powerful dragon dove and bucked, but could not manage to get the offending barbarian off of his back. The dragon tried for several minutes to remove the barbarian by diving and rolling, and when it was at the peak of one flight, prepared to do a diving roll and smash Ea to the ground, Ea managed to drive her axe right between the beast's shoulder blades into its thick spine. The effect was immediate. The dragon let out a scream that would give any lesser creature nightmares for life, and he began to fall from the sky, his wings permanently extended due to paralysis. Yet through all of this, it is only now that I call this battle truly epic, for instead of flying off the dragon to safety and letting it fall to the hard ground below and fighting it there, Ea stayed upon that dragon, wrenching the handle of her axe to and fro, and managed to actually steer the dragon in its descent. Ea rode that dragon down, turning its mighty armored bolt directly at the upper floors of the keep. The dragon and Aya slammed into the side of the keep with such a crash that all took notice. Tons of stone wall peeled away from the building, and when the dust and rubble subsided, we learned that Aya had not only killed the dragon in her suicide plummet, but had crushed the cowardly king as well. I tell you, is there any better way to die? The sheer amount of glory that Aya earned that day was immense. When all was said and done, Lucinda had been offered the throne due to her popularity, but she turned it down to be administrator and treasurer. She was one to work behind the scenes after all, and I respect that. No other dragons remained in the region, and I led the troop to gather the dragon's horde, and I stayed quite a while to help them rebuild. But it is Aya that I sing the praises to in this story, not myself. Her sacrifice was one of legend, so potent that the title of Master of the Military in Gul'dan was renamed Ayan. Glory to her name. Yes, I give credit where it is due. In fact, I have even bore witness to powerful savages within this very realm. From the technology granted by P here, I have come across others of note, and I shall speak the names of a couple proudly to you. Should any of you, my Savage Horde, come across these fine people in your travels, they deserve at least a beer. These beings are known as a Savage Barbarian, and a man whom I have had brief but glorious contact with. I highly recommend others do as well. The other, believe it or not, is an orc. Yes, in this realm. He goes by the name of Rum Mug. Now understand, my savages, that I have run many an orc across the length of my blade in my travels, but this one is truly unique. He speaks out against social justice warriors, and he has earned my respect. Hail to the Barbarian and Rum Mug. That is enough for now, P. Go and place this broadcast upon the internets to let any of the other savages out there bear witness to my tales. I have a need to drink deeply of victory from my recent battle with this pony keg. Stay savage.